Meditation. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of words at this. I think meditation talks about how it's both active and passive is for me. Best growth I found was doing my meditation actively while in a passive physical state. But very active inside, in the mind and feeling. That's, for me, is my best type of meditation, which I do really kind of by a moment-to-moment basis a lot of times now throughout my day. Oh, there's the moon for a second there, through all that gunk. Anyway, yeah. In that active part of meditating for me, yep, the words, the thoughts. What are the thoughts and what are the words and what do they mean and what's the deeper meaning? The grammar, step one. Yeah, what are these words? Who constructed these words? What's the meaning of each letter? What number is assigned to each letter? That letter was built on first with numbers because numbers came before letters. That's the kind of base construction of, well, it seems, construction. And the construction of nature. Yep, numbers play a big role. Yeah, it seems. And then numbers play a big role in the deceptions of nature itself. By explaining concepts, simple concepts of nature split into different aspects of itself and then assigned ridiculous values of numbers based on ridiculous theoretical concepts. All trying to match up with each other in this endless game of endless loops of numbers and math problems that there will be no answer found. Not when the problem itself was made up from the start on a faulty concept that made no sense and has no basis in reality or nature. Yeah, for me, the numbers part in that step one of the grammar or the knowledge or the input, no matter how you want to look at it. Realizing the significance of being taught to start counting at 1, count 1 to 10, and on and on and on, to as high as you can go. When could have just started with 0. As kind of nature intended. 0, completion. We're taught to fracture completion and start to count at the number 1 at separation, the first division, and act like that's the beginning, that's 1, because you can't have, because that's the material world. Have to have something. You have to have 1 of something to be able to touch it and look at it to know it's there in reality. No, you don't. Only when you believe that, because you've skipped the completion of 0. Nature itself, what came before, what will come after. Our infinite, energetic nature here, the energetic nature of nature itself and its infinity, are represented with a simple 0. Also represents the feminine. And then the 1 represents the masculine. Because that's the separation. That's the binary nature of this nature, 0 and 1, male and female. At least our nature, male and female, in this form. 0 and 1. But we're taught to start with 1 because, well, the whole male-driven patriarchal thing that took over from the whole matriarchal thing. That it's just always this back and forth struggle of positive, negative, black, white, good, evil, male, female. Someone always trying to get control just because they want to be right about their perception of things and force it on everyone else. Why? I don't know why. Except to say that it's because it's from quite a few different imbalances. But where was I? The numbers.
0, 1, binary, left, right, black, white.
Yeah, so the numbers. Only need 0 to 9, really. Start with the infinity of 0, then count to 1 in physicality, and then all the way to 9, which is the spiral, which is completion back to 0. One complete cycle all wrapped up, represented right there. Everything gets so overcomplicated, but everything is so much more complicated than just that, because that's a really simplistic way of looking at things, but it's a great place to start in a meditative state to build anew, to look at things differently. Was for me. Because after that, then what? The logic starts to go with that grammar. It starts to put it together and look at it and mull it over. And in those numbers, when you start with the math, the mathematics part, the 3.14, the radius of a circle, which would be kind of trying to imagine an angle or splitting a portion of infinity. And we can describe it with the number 3.14. And it can also describe that spiral of life. 1.618034, the golden ratio. Numbers, a circle and a spiral, a beginning and an end, a completion that can be divided and subdivided, but still it's always the same thing. It can only be looked at from different angles in different ways and different aspects, but it's still looking at the same thing. And it still ends with that spiral at the completion point and back to 0. Life to death, this to that. But is there really death like has been described? Who knows? To me, that seems like a never mind. Why go there right now? So with that logic, and then back past some mathematics there on the other side, the quadrivium, because they're both going on at the same time. Because to me, the left side of my brain, the logic side that likes the logic and likes to play with the grammar, that is now kind of trying to work on getting the rhetoric better. So, but on the right side of my brain, the creative side, the side that can take those numbers and it can go to the next step and look at the geometric patterns those numbers could make in those geometric shapes of nature. Because here, I guess, here in physicality on the material plane, aren't we all just different combinations of platonic solids? Different geometric shapes and patterns of elements, all set up in our own spiral pattern of life. Yeah. And in that thought, and with those words, and with those numbers that make those shapes geometrically, that thought can then be analyzed and turned and looked at. And it can see, are those shapes in line with nature? Do they line up with nature like a snowflake? Like a snowflake is formed in those geometric patterns? Or is it very, very unnaturally angular and harsh and sharp? Just another way to consider a thought or a concept. And then past that, the music. What's the music of it? What's its harmonics? How does it resonate? This thing, this thought inside, whatever's being considered during an active meditative state. What is this feeling, or what is this thought, this concept? And just stay on it and keep analyzing it and building this construct until it makes perfect sense. Or you can see the deception perfectly and you can discard it. Or you can gain whatever wisdom you need from whatever experience it might be as you build it and rebuild it and look at it from different ways. But musically, how does it resonate? In the right side of the brain, in the creative side. How does it match up with the sounds of nature cymatically? The shapes that sound frequencies make. Even words, the spoken word that can be spoken at water, at plants, at other things, and cause visible effects. Harsh, ugly words causing harsh, ugly effects to what is spoken to. And in this case, not speaking to something that most would consider sentient life when you speak of a plant or some cooked rice in a jar, or even water, or water as it freezes, yet it still reacts to the tones and the words used and the intent behind that resonate. Actions are the same way in the real world. They resonate harshly with vibration because it's happening due to the control of someone acting in reality. So even the words that are used and how they're spoken can have profound effects on the environment around and on the environment inside. Whether those words are spoken out loud or not, or if they're only in thought, they still have that same resounding feeling inside. That's why harsh, irregular, unnatural words and concepts have to be stopped. They have to be stopped inside, and those repeated patterns broken and discarded and replaced with something natural or left open for then nature to teach a lesson in that area, or to come across further understanding or overstanding during meditation. So past the music of it, of what's being considered. What about its cosmic nature? That last part of the quadrivium, the astronomy. What's its cosmology? What energy does it resonate with in comparison to the luminaries above, to what some consider planets, the things that can be seen above all of our heads that interact energetically with us below as we interact with them above? Is it based on? That's where you have to build your own inner cosmology. While I could sit and explain in detail likely every thought and every feeling inside me as it comes and how it resonates and what I can relate it to energetically outside me, it's only because I can do it inside me. Until I built this inner cosmology of things and this inner standing of my own inner workings, and then in relation to the outer workings of what I see and realize around, I could not do that. And that is what is built during that active meditative state. For me, doing that, I taught myself how to learn again. I taught myself as I learned the wisdom of my own experience in a whole new way, and then constructed a whole new way to me on how to think and construct thoughts and analyze thoughts and consider thoughts and reason out my thoughts and line them up with my feelings that I do the same thing with consideration and analyzation of, but without the words of thought. It happens in tandem now. At the same time, without much effort, but with effort, which I continue to expend just for my own personal growth, just for my own search for further just in my own search